Today's podcast is proudly sponsored by Awaza, the name behind some of the most trusted pond equipment in the hobby. If you're serious about koi or looking to upgrade your pond, consider looking at Awaza equipment. The Profi-cleared drums, water pumps and systems are designed to handle serious pond loads with minimal faff. And if your goal is crystal clear water, then look no further. Awaza allows you to enjoy your fish rather than just constantly firefighting your setup. And to be honest, it's the sort of gear I wish I used from day one. Big thanks to Awaza for supporting this podcast and for supporting ponds across the UK with gear that just works. Hi and welcome back to the Koi Perspective podcast. I've got two of my co-hosts with me today. Dave's gone AWOL again now. I'm sure he'll be back next week. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, good.
Have we made any purchases, or are we saving ourselves for the autumn harvest?
There's not going to be any more for me yet. I know that.
Now, you've got a show coming up, aren't you? So you can't really go making any purchases. What about you, Will? You been tempted by any last-minute Tosai.com?
I am, to be fair. I'm trying to be sensible. It's finding something to put them's problem.
Yeah.
Buying them's easy bit sometimes.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm kind of like looking forward to this time of year, and that's something I wanted to. We're going to speak about today on this podcast. Is it's a strange time of year because every single dealer in England is pretty much trying to flog everything they've got left to essentially reinvest it into Japan. It's completely normal. So there's a lot of sales happening now and things. Do you guys see it as like a good time to pick up Tosai at this time of year, or because you can get some good deals at this time?
Yeah, like I say, you get some good deals. Now, whether they're Tosai or not, I'm not quite sure, but...
Well, that's it. They're probably small Nisai now, aren't they?
From October, November, that's when they sort of hit that Nisai bracket, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think there's many dealers where you could actually say that the Tosai that have come in and are going to end up into big 50 cm Nisai. A lot of dealers' premises are not about raising fish in that way. That's I guess a real hard point, is that for a lot of dealers that are out there, you buy your Tosai in, you've got a certain amount of cost involved with that. The ones that you don't sell up to this point, you've kind of just got to get them gone to a certain extent. I think that's one of the reasons why you'll see so many of them having the sales now. There's not so many premises where 25 cm Tosai are going to be brought in April time, and then come where we are now, 1st of October as we record today, they're going to be 50 cm. A lot of them will have maybe done 1 or 2 centimetres over a year.
I suppose it depends what you want out of them. If you're showing, obviously you could start to argue they've been picked through, they've been selected through, you're kind of getting the back end of it, you're maybe not getting the prime picks or the best you could be getting. But at the same time, if you're just wanting nice fish, good quality fish for your pond, the good fish, good prices, and you'll get some enjoyment out of them that way. So
that's it.
Depends.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a difficult time to navigate as a dealer, because the other thing as well is, everybody wants to go out to Japan at this time of year and go and do the big mud pond harvest, because this is the time where generally a lot of the mud pond, like when you see these mud ponds that are harvested with big fish, this is that time of year that's coming up. So I guess it's probably the most exciting time in Japan, equally probably the most expensive time in Japan. I remember somebody speaking to me, when they do all these mud pond events and things like that, and it's literally their best mud ponds that have been harvested when people are there and doing their azikari and stuff like that. It's probably not the time of year I'd want to be going as a dealer. Probably maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that, when everybody's been and bought what they want. Maybe after that, start to get your discounted pieces, because, I don't know, like going bang on the number one harvests, I think you have to be buying some serious top-level koi to, like, be in at that level. And, it's expensive, I presume.
Well, do you remember when we was in Hiroshima last year, Joe? We were supposed to go to Matsue, and we literally got the phone call, so-and-so's bought the full house. You can still come if you want to come look round, but there's nothing for sale. It's like, sick.
It is crazy, and definitely with breeders, you feel like they save the best fish for the best customers, and it kind of makes sense.
It's gonna be done, isn't it?
It's only like when you build your relationship with your dealer, you generally get better access to shipment days and things like that, and being able to go to events and having first picks and that kind of stuff. So it's only right that the same exact thing happens in Japan, right? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like for me, this time of year also, it's a very expensive time as a hobbyist. We've spoken about it from a dealer, but actually buying Nisai. Do you guys buy many Nisai these days, or is it mainly Tosai that you guys are buying?
Well, for me, I mean, the fun in hobby for me is Tosai.
Mm.
I have bought Nisai, but I do prefer to buy Tosai and grow them.
I still think there's a lot of fun though in Nisai. There's still a lot of maturity and development, especially like good tatty guys, they say. Good Nisai wants to finish later on. So I still do think there is positives to that, watching Koi develop. But again, the fun can be Tosai and Nisai for me. But it all depends what you want to go for.
A lot of people talk about like that Nisai are less risky than Tosai. And the older they get, Sansai and Yonsai, there's less risk involved. For me, I'm not quite like a massive believer in that, to be honest. I mean, the thing is, for what I want at Tosai, it doesn't cost me a huge deal to maybe get 5-6 pieces at Tosai that I'd quite like to raise. And then, out of the ones that turn Nisai, I might keep 4 out of the 6 on a good year. And then, you're looking at what them 4 cost me. I still think at that point, when I've raised them through to Nisai, that them 4 are still cheaper than that one Nisai that I'd like to keep. But say if I buy a really nice Nisai that I want to keep and it goes wrong, that's 4 Tosai I could have had that I've raised to Nisai. Do you know what I mean? There is still a lot of risk. The older you get up, the more expensive it gets. And a lot of the costs that people don't talk about is the water that it's shipped over in. Unless you keep that water in a little jar, and you go, oh, this is the water it was shipped in. But I don't think anyone does that. But it's very expensive water.
Yeah.
Wait.
I mean, I guess you've done it, Will. You've been to Japan. You buy the fish, and you think, all right, I can afford that. And then you get back home to England, and your dealer goes, all right, here's your shipping bill as well.
There you go.
And then you go, yeah, I've got to pay for that as well, haven't I? And it almost adds on, another third, nearly?
Potentially. Yeah, it depends how big it is, but yeah, potentially.
It's mad to think about. And so that's when I start to think, are you actually buying Nisai, or are you just, paying for shipping to some extent as well? I think that's why Tosai can be less risky, less risk averse. So I don't want to put people off buying Nisai. I just think you got to think logically, unless you see something really special you like. But I do wonder, like in this day and age when everything's costing everybody so much more money, I do get the feeling that like Jumbo Tosai, that kind of level, is really popular among people like us and who are trying to learn a lot about koi. So yeah, interesting to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Tosai can be rewarding. Sorry, go on, Sam.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I think a lot of risk in Tosai will come in, like if you're just buying, say, one Tosai, for example. Like, say, for example, you buy, one shower for £1,000 or something like that. That can very easily go wrong, can't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm not in that game either, to be honest.
You can certainly buy expensive Tosai, especially stuff like stopping in Japan, which is obviously, again, is always a risk. It helps knowing bloodlines. Sometimes that can help. For example, that Sumi on Dainichi showers. Usually if the signs are there, you can sort of be confident that Sumi will come. But obviously, again, there's never any guarantees.
Yeah.
It's quite risky. No, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. There's always a risk.
I do think, buying expensive Tosai that's going to stay in Japan, you do get some form of guarantee though, don't you? Like, buying expensive Tosai in the UK, you don't, unless your dealer's a very, very good and generous dealer. I've not heard of any circumstance where you've bought a Tosai and it's gone wrong and dealer's gone, oh, it's all right, we'll sort another one out. It doesn't really happen like that in England. Whereas, in Japan, it feels like if you bought something, it went Azukari, and something went dramatically wrong with it, you'd generally be covered to some extent. So
they'd look after you, wouldn't they?
They would look after you. So I think that's like a different game in itself. And I think if you buy Tosai Azukari, essentially you've got to weigh up what you would pay for that fish at Nisai as well. And then you've also still got to pay your shipping as well. Again, Will, you can't avoid that.
I know.
Element of the bill, can you? So
well, I'll for me, I've got to ship a couple this year, or so it's December, January. So I've got a lot to look forward to. But some of them will be like Sansai now, Yonsai.
Yeah. It's all well and good until you ship them home.
That's it. I'll get bill and cry.
Interestingly, one of the breeders that I visited, some of the Azikari that he has there. I remember when I was with Aqua Group, I think Greg made a couple of inquiries about some fish that were held there by customers, and they were staying Azikari. And it was kind of like Greg was asking about them, and that's one of my customers' fish. But I could always ring my customer and see how much he wants to sell it for. And sometimes I wonder if that is like the future as well. Like I've heard of other UK hobbyists who have sold their Azikari to people in other countries as well. It comes out of the mud pond, you're not particularly keen on it, you don't want to ship it, but you're not going to get a refund because it's not had a major loss of quality. Something's happened. Too much sumi is developed, or it's not, grown as much as you want. So then they've sold it to like another dealer in another country, and I've never quite seen that. It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because you kind of cash it in, you go and buy something else then at that point. So there is there's not a lot of risks to Azikari, but it is expensive.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen it go the other way though, where like it's come out potentially a lot better than they've expected, and then like certain individuals took interest, and you're starting weighing up your pros and cons. You think, do I really want to ship this, and then I keep it for a few years, or if this person's really interested and wants to pay X, Y, Z, you think, I'll just let it go then.
Yeah, I remember a story about that a hobbyist told me, and I won't divulge the name or the details because I don't have permission to do that. But he was telling me about a circumstance in which he had a fish in Japan, and essentially the breeder made him an offer to buy it back and use it as a parent koi because one of his females or males had died and he needed a new one, and that's the one he wanted. And so I think he got quite a lucrative offer off of the back of it to actually sell his fish back to the breeder. So that's a really cool story. Things do happen like that. And I guess if you're doing a mud pond harvest and some guy in China is like, I really want that, who is anybody to say I'm not going to sell it to a Chinese businessman that really wants it? There's
come with that open checkbook.
Although it's a hobby to all of us, there is a business element to it as well, isn't there?
You'll know as well, especially Joe. A lot of the people in Japan are businessmen. There's very few hobbyists there. They're all strictly dealers or agents or whoever the title may be, but majority of them are business related.
I think it's really interesting because there's a lot of dealers again that are heading out first time this year, and I've spoken to a few, not just one, a few dealers that have kind of messaged me and really excited to get out to Japan for the first time this year. And I do think, I'm not an expert, I've only done it like less than a handful of times, but I do sometimes get the feeling like the stories that I hear and what I hear from other dealers and agents and things, there is a dark side to some of these breeders out there. And I won't name names, but there is like an element of they're not. I think the image we have of Japanese farmers is that they're all honest, working, and they all work hard. Absolutely nobody can deny that. But I do think there is an element of if they feel like they could make a little bit more money by going round the back door sometimes, that they would do it. And there's definitely some sneaky shenanigans that goes on. And I think some dealers, like finding the right person to go with is so important. And by going with an agent like somebody like Chris at Ornafish or whatever, like some of them are, they've been around the block. They know what to expect. There's some dodgy old dealings in Japan, I tell you, especially some of the things I've heard. So I don't know, like, do you guys get that vibe, or is it just like, Will, you've gone, but Sai, from like outside, I know you're going to visit Japan one day, but from your side looking in, it's business, isn't it? Like, there has to be an element of that.
It's same in any walk of life, isn't it? Business is business.
Yeah.
You're in business for a reason, to make money. You're not a charity.
Yeah. And
some of these operations are massive. You've been to some big farms, and these ponds take some maintenance, and obviously the running costs, and God knows what some of the food bills must be.
Yeah.
And the staff, all of them have staff that work really hard, so you can imagine it's some running costs a year.
Yeah, massive. And I think one of the things as well, I remember there were a story, I think it was a story that Ryan had told me exclusively, and he said that he was going into like a breeder's house, a fish house. They constantly bring in new fish in every day during a harvest. And so dealers come in, they look around, maybe don't buy anything, go. And that's quite, I guess, common at that time of year. Walk in, maybe don't buy anything, just check in, and maybe they'll scalp one or two fish off the top. And I think Ryan told me that he just made an offer to the breeder. He said, like, ring me when these come in, and if you can guarantee me, like, first pick, I'll pay you an extra, I don't know, 50 quid per Nisai or something like that. And I'm like, that's actually a really savvy move, that. Because for a breeder, having 50 different people come through your door every day in Niigata, which I don't think would be like a small amount of people, 50 different people come through your door, and maybe they might net one and go, ooh, and then put it back. And I guess that could be infuriating. And then, so someone like Ryan comes on and goes, look, just ring me, give me first pick, I'll pay you a little bit more. But for him, he gets a first pick. So it's probably worth more than 50 quid. And I just think that's somebody who's really screwed on to the way the Japanese work. And another story that I heard was when we was with Aqua Group and we were at Matsue. And at the time, they had like this little tiny, like an EZ pond essentially. And he were growing some Igoromo, like small Igoromo, but it's something he's been working on for a while. And they were really nice. And I remember Greg had asked for the price, and he said basically the price were quite expensive. And he said, well, what price point are you looking for? And so Greg said, well, really, ideally, I need to get them back home to England and maybe sell them for this much. And so the breeder actually bowled them up at that price and said, right, you can have these at that price. And he did and I thought, wow, that is actually a really good way to do it. Because sometimes, I guess, to you looking at it, some people might find this boring or really fascinating, but you look in an EZ pond and you say, how much are these? The breeder's thinking, there's some really good ones in there that I just won't want to sell for any money. So it's not as though he gives you a price, then you pick the best ones. He goes, oh, actually, I've changed my mind. That one's more expensive. Don't work like that. If you get a price on a pond, you can then scalp whatever you want out of that pond, and then you just get it at that fixed price. Or you bowl them all up, and then you get a price on the bowl. That'll generally be the way it works. But to actually say to the breeder, this is the price I'm looking for, and then let the breeder do it, I thought was a really smart way, because the breeder will never want to let you down. He'll never do you dirty. And you could always chuck a couple back that you don't like and go, right, I'll take these ones. I just thought that was smart, and I think there's a lot of people who maybe go to Japan a bit like what's the term, like wet behind the ears? Is that the term?
Naive. It'd be
naive. You go, yeah, like a bit naive, and probably think, oh, breeder will never have me pants down, that type of thing. But I tell you, they know someone naive when they see him.
It's not that either. Markets are different. So British being British, and I think even the Japs know about like how Brits are with business. They probably know we're not as generous, or not generous, or we're not as like, yeah, I'll spend that. But like the Americans, they're like, it's got 2 spots, double.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think they take advantage of that thing.
Yeah.
Well, they're right. Do you know what I mean? Who wouldn't? I can't fault them for it.
It's like the other thing as well in business. Imagine you were buying a car. You don't walk in and say, you don't get in a car and do a test drive and go, wow, this is the best car I've ever driven, and then ask for the price, do you? It's like, say you boil a fish up and you're like taking videos of it and you're like, whoa, and then you go, right, how much is it?
Yeah.
You kind of get it in a bowl. And you like really like you got to treat it like a, and then you don't show your emotion. You go and then you go, right, how much is it? And the breeder will already know. But I do think some of these breeders, you boil up these, and you'll see it not with parties particularly that I've been, but with other parties, and you'll see them and you're like, it's completely backwards. It's completely backwards the way that it is. And you can definitely tell the operators who have been around the block and those that haven't. I think it's you have to learn quickly as well. Because the thing is, if you bring a batch of fish back that you've overpaid for, that could just absolutely kill a business. Like, you've got overpriced Tosai for the entire year. What do you do then?
How do you recover from it?
How do you recover from it? Because you've got to get your money back somehow, or you take the loss, and So, and I think there's a lot of people who are looking to try and find different ways of getting koi and this, that, and the other. There's a lot of, there's a lot of disruption in like the wholesale market in England for koi, and people buying from here, there, and everywhere, and people buying from other dealers selling to other dealers. So it's changing.
It is, it's always evolving, isn't it? But obviously, the Japanese do have set ponds though for dealers. I mean, you'll go to certain dealers and they'll say, "Oh, this pond's that much if you buy this many. This pond's that much if you buy this many. This pond's that much if you buy this many." The whole like really bowling them up and that they're the good fish. They're like the serious fish. But obviously, console fish, if I'm correct in referring to them as, there is lots of set price as well. If you did just want to do that, it depends. Your market, people have to know the markets.
And I think sometimes people probably don't have an understanding of, like, say for instance you go to Japan as a dealer. And again, this is just my little tiny experience I have in Japan, not classing myself as an expert in this matter at all, just offering what little insight I can. But say if you were a dealer and you're like, right, I want 50 Shinoda Hyotsuri this year, but then the dealer who's just been before you has bought 2,000, you're not going to get the same quality at the same price. That makes me like, it's very funny, like some of the things that you'll see as people trying to, sometimes you can't even get access to this stuff and they'll just be gone before you get there because somebody's walked through the door and just gone. Like Will said before with Matsue, when we went with Chris Masters, we had the Envisioner go in and we got the phone call to say we've sold it all, there's nothing here for you, so don't bother coming. It's like, all right. And I think that happens quite often, to be honest. And
of course.
And I think the rise in the USA is really interesting as well, because you walk around the fish houses and you'll just see like essentially floating little bits of polystyrene, and it'll just say like USA on the polystyrene. It's like that pond sold out USA. They're buying by pond loads, and some of them as well, like dealers all together. So there might be 3 dealers, and they all just go all in on one pond and split the cost, bring the cost down because they're buying more in bulk, and then they can all sell them cheaper. So whereas in England, you can't imagine 3 different koi dealers all kind of working together in tandem. There are exceptions to the rule with that, but 3 dealers who are not wholesaling to each other, just there to work together. Yeah, it's cool to see. So yeah, no, I think that we've deep dived into Japan there.
Buying in Japan, but definitely go to Japan though. I don't know if any negatives or anything. Still definitely go to Japan. What an experience. The
I love it.
Yeah, the quality of koi will blow your mind.
I love even the negative aspects of it because it's just like a different world altogether. Yeah. And
it's such a good experience.
Even the little quirks about how business is done, them kind of things are just, it's just fun to watch it all go down and stuff. So yeah,
I tell you a good one to comment on as well is the auctions. We're at one of the open auctions at a breeder, big event, a lot of big names there. There's a lot of people, and I expected a very formal event, which it were in retrospect, it were very respectful and formal to a degree. But like I remember at one point, like when you start getting to the bigger money fish, and there's a breeder sat there, and there's obviously like a couple of people bidding against each other, and maybe egos get involved, and the breeder jumping about, egging them on to bid higher and stuff like that. I didn't expect that.
No,
but it's obviously a bit of fun. Do you know what I mean?
I remember the fish you were the fish I think you're speaking about was the auction, and essentially one of the guys was just sat there, and he had his phone like this, and he had his hand just up in the air. Yeah. And he wasn't even looking at how much it was on screen. Like the screen's over the complete opposite end, and he's just got his hand in the air, almost like, I don't want to know what he's bidding for. Just tell me when it's over. And I can't imagine that. Imagine that guy's got a customer that's just gone, I do not care, get me it. And so he's just not looking at screen, and he's just like, right, just tell me when this is over.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
It is, and like I said, the people bidding against him and the breeder were egging him on and jumping about. It were fun to see. It were kind of good.
It's usually whenever something goes over like, what is it, 1,000,000 yen, which is $5,000, I think. If anything ever
Yeah.
goes on, they do a little ceremony. So like we have in England, we have a little like hammer, auction hammer. They have so they'll like lift it up and it has like a little table on it, and then they'll put it down and they'll go like clap, 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 clap. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then they all just say this. I don't know what they say. I need to translate it in Japanese, but it's
That's
like
a video, really.
51万両、はい、52万、52万両、52万両、53万、53、54万、54万両、4万両、4万両、55万、55万両、56万、56万両、57万、57万両、58、58万両か、58万両、58万両、58万両、はい、59万、59万両、59万、59万両、59万両、6万、はい、60万両か、60万両、はい、60万、61万、61万両か、61万両か、61万両、61万両、60
it's like, oh, respect for the guy that's just bought that. I'm like, honestly, you guys are just enjoying yourselves way too much bidding all this money on these coins.
Yeah.
But
It
it
becomes
always-
a good laugh.
Every year I've been, I've taken a picture because the one thing they do supply you when these auctions are going on is a load of beer. Like the beer is on floor. They know
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Well, you
So
can't
I
blame
always
them.
That's
take
it.
a selfie with like an auction piece of paper and a beer in other hands. But I really want a UK business to replicate that to some extent. I think it's possible. Do you?
The Great British Piss Up, it's just a coin auction.
Kind of, but at the same time, it'd never get to that stage. I mean, auctions do go crazy in this country, even the live auctions and things. But if people want to pay that for a fish, I suppose, like, let it
Yeah.
happen. If
Will we?
if they really like it and they want to spend that much, who are we to say they're
Well,
wrong
certain.
and we're right? It's kind of like,
I tell you what did look a bit of a good laugh. I don't know if it was Lee Hadfield's video when he was Ryan after the All Japan and they went to the dinner dance and the breeders had drawn like pictures or whatever
Yeah.
and they were auctioning them. That looks a good.
that was such a cool behind the scenes. That
Yeah, it was.
Lee was one of the first vloggers, in my opinion, to get that kind of access and vlog it, and really cool to see that kind of stuff. And it just shows. I mean, them pictures went for a crazy amount of money as well, didn't they? So
Yeah, I think we're all going to charity when it were all a bit of a
But
ego thing. But
there is some money. I mean, again, we all think of these koi farmers and think they probably drive around in like Fiat Puntos and them little.
yeah, they've done well for themselves.
I struggle a little bit because when I go and visit a farm, I want to feel like I'm going to do something. I'm going to support them with my little one Hazakari, and it's going to make like a massive difference. And I'm going to be such a good customer to them. But realistically, walking in the door of some of the big breeders, it's just you're a nobody unless you're spending hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. And so I think one of the only exceptions to that rule in this day and age is probably Ryan, who's developing like a big reputation. And then you look at like Tony Pittam as well, Tony All Japan previous winner. I think having that on your like CV probably just opens every door in Japan for you, doesn't it? Being an ex All Japan winner.
It's some credibility in it. In fairness,
And I don't know if any UK dealer's ever going to do that again.
it's even harder now.
I suppose it's becoming more and more difficult now, isn't it? We like the Chinese coming in and it's becoming more and more difficult.
100%.
I mean, this is the only scenario I can talk because it's the only one I know. But like, for instance, when I had a smaller Kwaku go to the International Junior Koi Show, which is about the third biggest koi show in Japan?
Yeah,
it's not even the big one. And the Kahaku was in BU, and there was 65 other Kahakus in the same size in that class.
Mad.
So that's one class, one size, and 65 other ones as competition. So like spread that across the show. Imagine the competition there to do anything in a show. That's why I suppose people sort of said don't go for Go Sankey, go for some of these different less abundant types as such, but yeah, like the competition, even with those, is immense.
Yeah,
It
and
shows.
it's like I think even the wealthiest individuals in England that we could rustle up in this country that are into koi, of course, that probably want to try and win at the All Japan show. Pardon me. Would probably get to a point where if something's on the verge of winning the All Japan Koi show, you've probably got Ryuki would be sniffing around. You'd probably have other breeders sniffing around it. Say, for instance, you got a Sankey at Sakai, you had it at Tosai. Well, this is a good Nisai. It's turning into a good Sansai now. It's Yonsai, right, 80 cm, right, we think this has got all Japan standard. If somebody catches wind of that, it's going to go to every wealthy person in the world that there's an opportunity to buy something that could compete at the All Japan. And I think even the wealthiest individuals in England would crumble under that pressure to go, I'm going to cash out now. I know I would.
Yeah.
So if even, say, the most wealthy individuals who are into koi in this country are at that level, I'm not sure it's, unless there's somebody seriously crazy who's going to, not sell it to some of these overseas other entities which are out there. And, I don't want to, these guys essentially prop up the whole entire industry to some extent. But yeah, no, it's interesting dynamic. I think a lot of people will listen to this and lose a bit of faith in it as well. And
yeah, don't do that.
No, and a lot of people will be like, I honestly don't give a two hoots about it, but I still find it interesting as well.
Well, I suppose it's that bar which kind of fires the rest of the hobby. So when you start seeing these big prize fish and these GCs and these prize-winning fish, that's what sort of fuels even the lower end, because you can still appreciate the quality and the aspects of the lower-end fish or fish within your budget. But if the buzz wasn't there for the major stuff, would that buzz be there for the I don't know,
smaller stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. So just because you haven't got an All Japan GC, which not very few people have, it's very rare. It doesn't matter. It's about the overall quality of the fish and the qualities that you want it for, and that's the exciting bit of the hobby. I think anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, when you talk about things like that, though, you talk about the different price levels of koi. That person that's spending, £1 million on a koi or something like that, and thinking, that's the dog's danglies or whatever. Someone that's spending £500 on a koi is looking at that koi thinking that is the dog's danglies. Do you know what I mean? So it's horses for courses.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong with this. I don't think, for instance, Benedict Campos, for anybody that doesn't know, major buyer of expensive koi in Japan. I dread to think what his yearly bill is on fish in Japan, but hasn't won a GC at All Japan.
I don't know that, but
yeah,
true.
Which you'd have thought over the last few years, with the amount of koi he's buying, he'd be in the running for that. But I'm yet to see him take. He has took major awards, but I don't think he's took a GC or a GCB at All Japan. I could be wrong with that, but that's somebody spending crazy amounts of money, and he still hasn't achieved that.
It's fascinating to some extent because, the other thing as well is that I do believe these people at the top end are not just in it because they want to blow a load of money on it as well. Like, I think when you've got a lot of money, you can still have hobbies. And I have spoken to a couple of people at the very top end in terms of what they're spending, and they know a lot. They know a lot about koi. And I think Tony Pittam said that before as well. Like, these people who are spending big money, it's not as though they're just saying to the dealer, go and find me the most expensive fish you can. They also know a lot themselves. They have a personal taste. They know what they like. Yeah. I do think with Benedict Campos, it probably feels like he's got 20 employees out there trying to find him stuff, because how much fish he gets is unbelievable. But yeah, no, I think he's the exception to the rule. But
yeah, definitely an exception. But I think I touched on that last podcast, if I remember right. I've been fortunate. I've been to people's ponds and I've been to individual setups, and I can openly say some of the best fish in this country will never see a UK show. Because they're obviously very wealthy individuals, very respect to that, and they like koi, they buy the koi that's within their budget, and they ship them over and they enjoy them in the ponds, and that's it.
Yeah.
They've got no interest in showing it off or it going to shows. Their enjoyment is it swimming around in their pond, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, who's the celebrity that keeps koi? I want to see some down in the comments, because I've heard of a few, but I'd be interested to know some other people, because I'm sure there's some celebrities out there that are all keeping koi. Yeah,
it's going mainstream, isn't it?
Yeah,
growing.
Somebody told me like ex-Leeds footballer Calvin Phillips is keeping koi, and I know Brad Pitt I think who was it as well? Oh my god, I can't think of the name. Queen lead singer Freddie Mercury. He used to keep koi. Yeah, he had a koi pond. So there's a lot of celebrities out there, but it'd be cool to see them maybe open a pond up for a little magazine or something like that. That'd be quite cool and give the.
I wonder what magazine that could be.
Yeah, well,
the Celebrity Insight.
But yeah, in terms of like, again, going back to in England and how it's changing and how fish are coming into the country these days and the amount of people that are shipping country into the country these days, I do think the actual industry is shifting a little bit of a dynamic. What I would class as the stalwarts of the industry, like the dealers who have been around 15 years, we've all seen that, Quenny Koi shifting hands now. We've seen that, and there's going to be a change with the staff there by the looks of it, reading through the lines on social media. So I think we're all here wishing Adam and Marcus there the best for the future as well, because it looks like a bit of a strange scenario, hypothetically. But yeah, there's a change in the industry, isn't there? Let's just say that without causing much further stress.
Ruffling any feathers.
But there's a lot of people importing koi. There's a lot of new dealers. There's a lot of dealers who were hobbyists that have changed the ponds into dealers' premises these days.
Definitely.
And I think
everywhere.
We did the whole backyard dealer podcast, and that ruffled some feathers. But I think this year has been the year where it has shifted. And I think we were right about what we said, that a lot of these smaller dealer premises with lower overheads are actually starting to sell a hell of a lot of koi.
It's a fair comment. One thing I think I've noticed is there's a lot more koi in Japan in terms of Azakari koi, and potentially the auctions or the online auctions is to the out, because obviously a lot of people now are suddenly buying fish in Japan because of these online auctions. So one thing I've noticed is Azakari, like nearly at one time a day, so and so maybe got one, or he's got one or two. Now everyone you talk to tends to have one or two over there. Do you know what I mean? It's Azakari is kind of becoming mainstream.
Yeah.
And obtainable to everyone, which is good. It's good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all buying koi from different places. I think, Will, you got a lot of yours from Chris Masters, but you've got koi from other places. So you've been to like Satomi, who's a new koi dealer this year. Got some of your fish from there, haven't you? You got one from Aqua Group at the Koi Show. You got some from Shosha this year. There's a lot of options out there. I don't think, when I say there's a lot of change in the industry, I think it's good change. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of good koi being imported into the country these days.
That's it. I mean, that's kind of one of the points I was trying to make before. There's a lot of good koi coming into the country, for really good, reasonable prices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility to pick up a Tosai for £100 and turn it into a £300-400 Nisai these days, in my opinion. When the term tatigoi in Japan gets mentioned, usually it means it's got something left to do. Doesn't mean it's going to turn into the world's best koi, but I would say a lot of dealers now are buying very good, quite cheap tatigoi that the breeders would have preferred to keep, but can't. And so they end up into the country, and you can actually do quite a lot with them if you pick the right ones. There are still a lot of dealers who are just buying mixed boxes of koi, and that's more like Tatashita, where they've reached a point and they're still happy to sell them, and they think there's something left in them. But then there's another term that Atsumi tried telling me about, and I can't remember what it is, but there's a name for it where koi have reached the peak and it's downhill from there, basically. And there are still quite a lot of dealers who import that level of koi as well. They're probably not koi specialists, but they have koi as part of their business. And so, yeah, it's interesting. One of the stats I saw the other day is that Germany actually buys and ships more koi than England, which I thought was bizarre, because I would have had us importing more koi than Germany. Holland ships more koi than England as well. So I don't think we're like the biggest industry outside of the US or Asia. I think we have fallen away slightly from what maybe it was before, but yeah, it's an interesting industry, and we've seen a lot of rise in new products this year. We've had a lot of the detox products, complete pond meat detox, kind of took everybody by storm when that came out, because everybody's had bloody, heavy metal issues and water issues and
That's
things.
because of the state of water at a minute, but
yeah,
that's a different topic.
And we've seen a lot of follow-on products off the back of the coattails of detox. You've got new detox products hitting the market these days. Parasite treatments is somewhere I still think we're so lacking behind on. That is still somewhere. There has to be some development out there in parasite treatments.
Apparently, British regulations is what makes that difficult.
Yeah.
So I've been told. I don't know. I'm no expert, and I've never had much to do with it. Just so information I've sort of received.
Yeah. We have crazy like chemical legislation. Just bringing anything back into this country is supposed to be really, really difficult. I had somebody message me from the US recently, and he was trying to ship something in that's like a topical treatment for koi. You put it on like an open wound, and it's supposed to heal them, and they can just get it into America no problem. Actually getting it over here is really difficult. What's the other thing as well? The albugen, the yellow liquid that you'll see in bags. Can't get that over here either, can you? You have to like sneak it in a suitcase, I think. Yeah. No, it's crazy. How do you guys feel like the year's been so far?
How the what's been?
The year.
The year.
Overall, I think quite positive. For the hobby, as the hobby is. Same as Simon says, I think the koi that's going in the country is very good. For the money as well. And obviously, we kind of touched on value and these big money koi and people buying crazy money koi. But end of the day, the good koi is good koi no matter what you've paid for it. I've never cared about what people have paid for a fish. I think if the qualities are there, it's quality. And I think that's had a big positive impact. Like Joe's just said, a lot of healthy competition with these different products, and competition sort of fuels them to better each other. You know what I mean? The evolution, and you get better things that way. So it's good. It's good to see. I think overall,
it's all good for the hobbyists at the end of the day, isn't it? Because the more competition there is out there, it all filters down to the hobbyist, which is the hobbyist that benefits at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think where like with what Will says, wherever there's competition, there's research and development, and there's people trying to get the upper hand. And I know, like, and another thing we've seen this year is the whole Nutrimare thing. I mean, fair play to Dan. He's really tapped into like the right market at the right time, and has utilized media as a way to like get his product out there as well. And I do think that has changed the game slightly in the way that some of the food manufacturers now, I believe, are going to have to come out and kind of like respond to Nutrimare to some extent. Like they are selling a lot of koi foods at Nutrimare. And I've been saying it for a long time. I said it on the podcast before we even had Dan on. There's a lack of information about koi foods out there, other than the same loud voices we get all the time about, Sake Hikari. And Sake Hikari is the best product on the market. And I'm not going to say otherwise. But it's very expensive for people like me who have lives and live. I don't make a brilliant living from the koi perspective, but like paying for sake kari, electricity, everybody's looking for ways to find money. So when the question gets raised, why are people looking at Nutrimare if they already believe sake kari is good? I know the cost savings are not they're good. The cost savings are good moving to Nutrimare from sake, but it's any cost saving they can make. It's not about how big it is. If you can make a £50 a month saving moving to Nutrimare, people will do it. The loyalty around spending is very, very fickle. And I don't understand the rhetoric of, if sake hikari is brilliant, we'll just accept that and never question it ever. That rhetoric is very old. If somebody can come along and offer you the savings, you've got to look into it. And that's what I feel like it's my job. I love Sake Hikari. Sake Hikari have sponsored my koi show, they sponsor my magazine, and I'd love to do some more content with Sake Hikari to really tell people why it's so good. But that's difficult to organise as well. But I do think if somebody comes to me and says, Joe, I've got a new koi food, I'd really like to come on your podcast and talk about it, this is an open forum to talk about anything.
No, definitely. Like you just said, if somebody's got something new and wants to voice it, and you've got to be prepared to listen, aren't you? You can't be like, no, sake's best food. You'll never ever make another food as good as sake. But potentially, somebody could make a better food or a more reasonable food, like you'd say, in terms of price and everything. But it's one of them. Hopefully it fetches sake price down. That'd be nice.
Yeah,
Hopefully that happens, but who knows?
Pigs might fly.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah. I think I'd really like to explore some other koi foods next year as well. Like I've said to Dan that I want to keep the content going on Nutrimare, keep some stuff going on Nutrimare, and really try and do some new stuff with Dan, and maybe visit his place and things. So there's things you got in the pipeline to keep the Nutrimare content going in future. But I'd really like to try and benchmark it next year. I mean, obviously we did my Grow on Harvest, which Sai, you came to, and we did that, and that was quite well received. A lot of people talking about that. But I'd like to benchmark Nutrimare now against something new next year and really see, maybe that's FD. I'm trying to speak to FD and see if we can organise that, because I think there's not a lot of results on the market about FD other than what we see in Japan. I've not spoken to many hobbyists who have fed FD exclusively for the year and just seen what's happened. So maybe if I can raise a bunch of Tosai next year on FD or, Kiyomizu. Again, if you guys have got any recommendations on what you want to see, leave a comment down below. I'd be really interested to know.
I've had a bit of experience with FD. I can't grumble. I think it's quite good. And I will have a look. I seen something a couple of years ago in Holland where they did an FD trial and they put up some photos and videos of the koi that they did it on. I'll see if I can find that out for you, Joe. Nothing crazy, but interesting to look at, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd love to see stuff like that. And
I think I'm going to experiment with feeding a purely sinking food next season, I think.
Yeah. Do you know what type yet? What brand yet? Have you decided?
Well, as things stand at the minute, probably Sakikari, but I don't know. Sakikari sinking's a lot dearer than Sakikari floating, isn't it?
Yeah.
The weight's different though. The bags are heavier, aren't they? Because obviously it's a denser pellet.
Are they 20 kilos?
I think they're 20 kg.
So it probably works out about the same then. I don't know, but if things stand at the minute, I'll probably end up being sack again. But who knows? I don't know.
It's a good point that, Simon, because I've used sinking a little bit this year, and it is something I think I'm gonna do 50-50 next because the bigger fish, hands down, prefer it.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a few other people as well, and they've sort of said, when you start getting the big girls and the blacks and everything, and they're coming up on the water all the time like this, it's just not good for them. They're just not designed to do that.
Definitely. I have fed sinking before, and you definitely do notice a behavioural difference in when they're feeding, don't you?
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's going to be me as well next year. I think I've really got to give sinking a go, I think. Sort of my plans. I don't know what's after Joe.
Do you know this?
Losing his camera source again.
I am. I don't know why, but after about an hour of filming, my camera just gets really hot, and I think at one point it's just going to fizzle out and explode. And you guys can look forward to that episode. But it's a very expensive camera, so maybe I need to buy a very expensive fan to go with it or something like that. So
yeah, that's it.
Maybe that's a good place for us to end before I end up in a ball of flames. But no, I've enjoyed that. Just a nice waffle on what's been a good year. And by this point, I'm not sure if this is going out the weekend of the Birmingham Koi Show, but the plan is to do a live there. So maybe it has happened, maybe it hasn't. Go watch it if it has. And we'll see you next week on the Koi Perspective podcast. It's been my pleasure. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Thank you. It's been good.
Cheers, guys.
See you in a bit.